I want to talk to you about getting excited about using the phonemic chart and the phonemic script to teach pronunciation in your classes. And I can see some faces already are like, oh no, really? But trust me, okay, it can be fun. First, I'm just going to talk you through a couple of advantages of using the chart and script in your classes, and then I'm going to describe a couple of different activities that I've used that I find really effective and engaging. And I know not everybody really likes the chart, and I know there's loads of debate about accents and all of this kind of thing, and I know then there's other people who are absolutely terrified of it. I was one of those people 2 years ago, but I'm all right now. Yeah, I've been converted. And ever since I just started using the chart in my classes, my classes, they're so much richer, they're so much fuller. I have so much more fun. The students have so much more fun. They're begging for more. And most importantly, their confidence has gone through the roof in terms of pronunciation. And that's my first advantage is... What do I do? Oh, there it is. My first advantage is that it empowers our learners, because we're giving them a tool that will help them to understand pronunciation, to help them understand what's happening in their own mouths. And then as a result, it's going to build their confidence. It provides or promotes autonomy, because we're giving them a system that they understand and that they can use in class with their fellow students or with their teacher, but also at home when they're studying. So, for example, if they want to record new vocabulary, it's more memorable for them if they're not just writing out, oh, this is the meaning of it, or this is it in an example sentence. This is how I pronounce it, so now I can actually speak it. I can use this in conversation. It's also fantastic for them for grammar. So when they're learning their grammar, they can also mark out the pronunciation of it as well. And it's all for this. It's more memorable because they're discovering. They're not just listening to somebody say, okay, the word is vegetable, not vegetable. Vegetable, say it. And that doesn't help them, yeah? It doesn't really help them, because they need to figure out what's happening in their mouths. They need to discover that. And when they discover, they're going to learn, okay? And when they're learning, it's more memorable, all right? Next, spelling, which is kind of some people kind of disagree. I feel that there's two advantages in terms of spelling. One, it shows them how phonetical that English isn't, and that they need to be able that using the chart and phonemic script will help them. And the second is that it does actually help discover patterns in spelling. So, for example, if you look at the sound you might see that the majority of words that have the sound are spelled with O. Some have an A, like want or wash or watch. And then some are spelled with AU, like Australia and Austria and things like that. So it's good for them that they can discover these different patterns. It provides a visual stimulus. So it's making that, yes, it's physical, but that they can kind of put something visual on what their mouth is doing. So if their mouth makes a sound, they can say, oh, that sound is represented by this little picture. And you don't have to necessarily use symbols. You can use, there are different methods. Some people use pictures. Pierce Messon, for example, has kind of a method that's based on the silent way. It's called pronunciation science, and it's based on the silence way to teach pronunciation. And their chart is a series of different colour patterns, so it's completely different. So what we're doing is we're just making a connection between what we're doing in our mouths and being able to put it down. And finally, it's not only a great tool for the students, it's fantastic for us as teachers. So when we are introducing new vocabulary, new grammar, it's wonderful. In terms of error correction, it makes our error correction so much more effective, so much quicker, and so much more memorable as well for the students. Okay, what's next? Sorry. So before you start, I find it's also important to decide what are your goals in terms of pronunciation. We have to remember that it can be divided into two. We're not just teaching them the chart, we're not just teaching them pronunciation to produce, we're teaching them to be able to listen, to receive information, to understand information. And in terms of productive, it's very important. We want to aim not for perfection, because what is perfection? We've all got so many different accents and ways of speaking. So what we want to do is make our learners intelligible, make them be understood by other people. And that's the biggest thing. So intelligibility is the name of the game. Okay. Yes, before you begin, if there's anybody who's not familiar with the chart or with teaching pronunciation, it is fun, okay? Believe me, it is fun. And I guarantee you, if you just take the time to inform yourselves about it, you will be able to use it. I remember I watched this video here, Adrian Underhill. He has an hour-long video on YouTube about introducing the chart. This chart changed my life, literally, because my career took a completely different direction from when I learned this. But if you watch Adrian Underhill, he has a video on YouTube, and after that it'll all be clear. Yeah, the chart, the pattern of it, why it's that way, and how it works, and you'll actually discover a lot about yourself and how you speak. If an hour is too long for you to sit down, Macmillan and Adrian Underhill have created a series of 35 videos. Each video is approximately 3 minutes each, and it breaks the chart down into sections, so it's maybe more manageable chunks. There's an app by Macmillan again, and it's called Sounds, the pronunciation app. It's amazing, and it's literally, if you get there's one, it's only like €4 or €5. If you buy that one, it's brilliant. And literally, when you're waiting for the bus, when you're on the bus, when you're on the bathroom, you're in the bathroom or whatever, it really, really helps you yourself become more proficient. And when you are bringing the chart into the class, don't throw it at your students, because remember, we want to build their confidence, okay? We don't want to terrify them. So start building it slowly, introducing it slowly. Okay, so the first game that I absolutely love is Phonemic Hangman. And it's based on the regular Hangman, except with phonemes, okay? So it's great. Now, again, this one is great when you're first starting. It's really good if you want to recycle vocabulary. I like to use it after like a listening, and when we've extracted vocabulary or chunks of language from listening, from reading, even if you want to recycle the vocabulary or just a vocabulary lesson. And basically, the best thing to do is you put your students in pairs. You can give them, depending on what level of agency, you can give them, or you can words, or you can get them to pick out which words they want to remember the most from the lesson. So then they have to take the words and either decipher them, put them into phonemic script, okay? And very simply, then you'll match them with another pair, and then the two teams will play hangman. But instead of using the regular letters, they're using the sounds. So they're saying, okay, is there a in there? Is there a v in there? Is there an in there? And it's great because it's really connecting the symbols with the physicality. If you want to make it more difficult, or more easy even, you could give them the words already in script. And I suggest maybe at the beginning, maybe just give them 2 or 3 words, okay? If they're more proficient, you can give them more words. But what was the other thing I was going to say? Don't leave it to the last 10 minutes of class, because it takes a lot longer than 10 minutes, okay? And they really love it as well, so that they will take their time with it. So do give it a proper 20 plus minutes in your lesson, okay? It's not just an add-on, there you go, that's fine. The next one then is phonemic back to the board, which again is adapted from the regular back to the board game. Yes, when you have 2 teams, and one person sits with their back to the board and you write up a word. Except when you write up a word, you're going to write it up in phonemic script. And then the 2 teams first of all, they have to figure out what is the word, and then they have to go about explaining what the word is, or the expression. But the two tips is, number 1, it is quite challenging, so make sure you you need to make sure that you've used the script and the chart a lot in your class, so your students are quite familiar with it. And the other thing is, maybe get the students to put their hand in front of their mouth, because if they're like, and the other students can then kind of see what they're doing with their mouth. So get them maybe to cover their mouths, just from experience. Yeah, it's a good idea. And the final one is songs, and it's kind of I was kind of trying to think of a different way of using songs to help with pronunciation with the script, and basically there's kind of two levels, kind of an easier version and a more difficult version. And the first one is you'll take out a certain target language from the song, and in brackets beside the space you'll put down the phonemic script. And then the students have to decipher what the word is. And then they listen back and they have to check to see if they got it correct. The slightly more difficult version of it then is if you take out your target language, you put it into script and you put it in the box at the top of the song and you just leave the spaces. And then they have to decipher the different words, and then they'll have to read through and figure out where they think those words go. It's a really good idea if you use this with words that have a lot of rhyming, so that it'll help them look at different sounds and spelling patterns. And then again, you can, if you wanted afterwards, you can take out the words and have a look at, if you pick, for example, if you pick a song that has words that all have similar sounds, you'll be able to pick them out and have a look at the different spelling patterns that are there. And yes, and yeah, so remember, it's about building our students' confidence. Okay, we want them to be confident about it. We want them to enjoy it, and we want them to be intelligible. Yeah, that's what we're aiming for, not a perfect model or whatever. We also, build it up slowly. Don't throw it at them. Okay, but do build it up slowly because you want them to believe you that it's fun and that it makes life easier for them. And it does. I had a student last year, I took over an advanced class, and I started using the chart the same way as I always would. And he was like, wait a second. Nobody told me this when I was in beginners. It would have made everything so much easier. And he went crazy. But he absolutely loved it. Take the time to inform yourself, to learn a little bit about it. I know people either don't like it or find it really scary, and it really isn't that scary. If I can do it, believe me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So just do take the time to figure it out. And enjoy, yeah, have fun. And once you do start messing with it and playing with it in class, you will see that your students love it, and that you love it, and you won't want to teach anything else, because that's how I kind of feel sometimes. And finally, I just have two references there from Robin Walker and from Ida Ward from earlier on. And finally, if you want to get in touch, this is my email address, this is my blog, my Twitter. I'll put the presentation up on my blog and maybe on the ELT Ireland Facebook page if you do want to take notes, because I know it went really quickly, we only have 12 minutes. And thank you.
Hello, this is English Time with AIOS. I'm Alex Linville, the Director of the American Institute of Studies. Now today we're going to focus on pronunciation, how to really speak like an American. We're going to look at two of the most common past tense verbs. So we have the past simple and the present perfect. Now even though it says present, it is a past tense verb. So you use it when you talk about things that have already happened. Now at school, they teach you about pronouncing the past tense. They say there's 3 possible ways to pronounce the ED on the end of a past simple verb. You have a D sound, a T sound, and an ED sound. ED. Now this is important. I'm glad that Thai people learn this information, but I think it's overemphasized, meaning it's made too important. So in case you weren't taught this, I'm going to show you the perfect way to say these verbs. Then I'm going to show you the way that Americans really say them. So at school, you might have learned danced, loved, moved, with a hard D sound on the end. Now, it's very important that you have a sound on the end. If you just say dance, well, people won't know you're talking about the past. If you just say love, people won't know that you're talking about something that's already happened. So again, it's danced, loved, moved. That's the perfect way, very strong. The T is for verbs that end in certain letters, like K or P. Now there's rules to this, but I'm not going to focus on the rules today. I'm going to focus on the way people really say them. So walked, pushed, stopped. It's like a drum. It makes a t sound. Again, walked, pushed, stopped. Now again, that's the perfect book version of how people say these verbs, but it's not the real way. In America, nobody knows about this difference. Americans don't focus on it. We just say the verb in the way that sounds natural. Sometimes we say danced with the D, and sometimes we say danced with a T. Nobody cares. It doesn't make any difference. People will understand you. Even though the book shows you the perfect way, real Americans say it whatever way they want, the natural way. So let me say these verbs with a T. Even though many teachers will tell you that's wrong, I'm telling you it's the way people often will say them. Danced, loved, moved. Now, does that sound funny to you? Maybe. But to an American, it sounds perfectly natural. Again, with these verbs that are supposedly always said with a T. Walked, pushed, stopped. Is that wrong? To an American, it sounds very normal. The only thing that does sound wrong is how hard I'm saying the sound. Walked is too much. It should be a soft sound. Walked, pushed, stopped, danced, loved, moved. Hopefully you could hear that I combined the T's and the D's together. Some of these I said with a T, some I said with a D. Some of these I said with a T, some I said with a D. I did that to show you that Americans mix the sounds. We don't have a hard rule about this. Now the next kind is a hard rule. There's only one way to say these verbs, and that's with the ed sound. A verb that ends with a T or ends with a D, you say with an ed. Waited, added, hated. Okay, it makes an ed. Waited, added, hated. You cannot say waited or waited with a T or a D. That's wrong. It has to have that extra sound. Waited, added, and hated. So let's look at 3 subjects and 3 verbs, all in the simple past tense. Now before I say them, I want you to think about the way the book or a teacher would tell you is the perfect way. Just say the verb in your head. How would you naturally say it? So for the first one, most teachers would tell you, Tom arrived. You keep the D sound. But again, it doesn't make any difference. Tom arrived with a T. Again, Tom arrived. Or Tom arrived with a D. They both sound very good. The next one, Sam cooked. Most teachers would tell you it should be a T sound, cooked. But again, Sam cooked with a D, cooked, also sounds very natural. The important thing is that you have a D or a T. If you say Sam cook with no extra sound, people won't know you're talking about the past. It has to be cooked or cooked. The choice is yours. So for the last example, Kate needed, you have to have the ED. You don't have a choice. Because the verb ends in D, it has that extra sound, ed. Kate needed. So let me say all of them again one more time. Tom arrived, Sam cooked, Kate needed. Again, these can be either a D or a T. The choice is up to you. So that's the simple past. Let's look at the other common past tense verb, the present perfect. Now with this verb tense, the way people really talk, they always use contractions. They never say I have or you have. It's always I've or you've. So let me say them for you slowly so you understand. I've, you've, he's, we've, they've. And just so you know, the VE is supposed to be have, and the S is. Okay? So this is really I have, right? I've, you've, he's, we've, they've. Now with the pronouns, people say it like this. They make the V sound. And for the S, they make a Z. He's, or she's, or it's. Okay? And the V for the other sounds. But when you add a real word, a subject, like people, it changes to OF, of. People of seen. Again, people of seen. When they say it quickly, the V changes to an of. People of seen. The S, though, stays the same. Bob's seen. Bob's seen. You always have to have that extra sound. You cannot say Bob seen or people seen. There must be an extra sound, a contraction. Bob's seen. People of seen. People of. People of. Bob's. Now to make sure you're saying a Z, you can hold your hand to your throat and zzz, you'll feel it move. It will vibrate. Bob's seen. People of seen. Teachers of seen. Teachers of seen. Teachers of seen. Always of. So let's do it one more time. Bob's seen. People of seen. Teachers of seen. Bob's. People of. Teacher of. So I hope this has been very helpful for you. This has been two common past tense verbs, the past simple and the present perfect, and the way people really say them. So this has been English Time with AIOS. My name's Alex Linville, and please keep practicing your pronunciation and working on the way people really speak.